What is going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by comic creators, Ethan and Jessica. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely. So you both have a Kickstarter that you guys are doing, and I'm excited to talk about it. Before we hop into the Kickstarter, though, I always like to ask my guests, have you had a love for comics before creating comics, or is this kind of something that came in later?
You know, I think for me, okay, yes, as a little kid, I have the, memories of my mother bringing me to get the Superman Dies issue. Every kid, I'm sure, has some sort of like memories like that, so to speak. But for a while, I did drop off and wasn't as integrated into the community. But as we started writing more and doing more professional work and some film and TV, it just kind of seemed like a natural pairing to lean into and become engrossed by the comic art form. And so we've been kind of slowly moving to it. And then this project just kind of presented itself.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm more of a late bloomer, but I love it because there are things that I think as a kid would have gone totally over my head. So I do appreciate coming to it, as an adult, and it's been super exciting.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
And listen, us as comic fans, we don't care whether you are a comic fan from 2 years old or you come into it late. Because I have the same story a lot like Ethan. Like, I grew up reading comic books. I got away from it in like middle school and high school and was doing my own thing. And then 12, 14 years later, I was like, let's get into comics, and then let's do a comic YouTube. So there's no shame either way. Like, I think comic community is just like, no, just we love that people love comics. So
I definitely feel like I've been rediscovering it in kind of like a childlike state the past year we've been working on this. I guess since like last June.
Yeah, as a graphic novel, we've been working on it for over a year, but the concept itself as a story for a while longer, but then it kind of started like manifesting itself in this form, which was awesome.
But like me personally, whenever I get on any sort of project, I do admittedly get like the tunnel vision and I just go deep dive. And so like, I've just been like soaking up all different kinds of comics or graphic novels and just kind of like, inhaling a lot of it.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
getting a healthy collection.
Yeah. And what's awesome is y'all were connected with Rylan Grant, who the viewers of my show know. Rylan has been on this show more times than probably I have been on my own show, because he's always making a comic. And so Rylan reached out, was like, I've got some friends that want to be on. So I gotta ask, this is your first foray into comics. What have you guys kind of been doing before that led you into wanting to make a comic?
Well, we actually started way back as performers, and then about over a decade ago, we've always been storytellers. And I think, we did a short film over like a decade ago, and then we did this kind of experimental mock documentary, and our storytelling just got like wilder and crazier, and it's like evolved into this thing that, we're just storytellers. So we've become more writers and directors, and that's what we do. And then this project is this fantasy horror that's this big undertaking, and I think this medium just like lends itself so well to bring it to life.
And I'm excited to talk about your comic. So Shockheaded Peter is the comic that you have both created.
Yes.
So for those that haven't gotten to check out the Kickstarter preview or haven't gotten to see the preview pages, what is this comic about and how did the idea come about?
So Shockheaded Peter is a reimagining. It is a horror fantasy graphic novel. It is a cautionary tale about a harbinger of punishment who comes into town and a teenage girl's desire to join his disturbing crusade.
Yep.
That's essentially the quick little elevator gist pitch of it. But it's bigger than that. There's a whole mythology behind it. So it's actually, when I say a reimagining, because there is this book from 1845, this dark, macabre children's book by Dr. Heinrich Hoffman, who wrote this twisted, messed up, fucked up. Sorry, I don't know if you need to bleep me or not.
No, you're fine. You're good. You're good. You're good. Have you? I said I'm friends with Rylan. Have you?
Yeah.
Have you
Oh yeah, yeah. Every time I see Rylan, it's like earmuffs. No. So this original book, it's written in 1845 by this doctor, and it's just like the weirdest, twisted, most disturbing cautionary tales for kids. Like, eat all your food. If you don't, you're going to grow skinny and die. Or don't play with matches or you'll burn up into a fireball.
It's really, it goes like really far and beyond. And like, it was just actually something that Ethan had brought to our attention like years ago. And it was always just in our minds, like, what can we do with this? And like, when he says reimagining, it's like the book itself is these tales, but we've built an entire like world and universe around it.
Yeah, so they're just like these original one-off tales, cautionary, in old German society. And so there's one character, Shockheaded Peter. He is the quintessential dirty, gross, messy boy, who lets his fingernails grow and his hair get
Never
off, never showers, and becomes, just this disgusting person.
So a middle school kid is what you're saying. A middle school boy.
Basically.
That's what you're describing to me right now.
Essentially. And so we took him, and I should say that I discovered this when there's this band called the Tiger Lilies. I don't know if you've heard of them. They took this material and they did like an opera, like a really fucked up opera musical of it, but they just retold the stories as is, and it was amazing. So they interpreted it that way. We took this one character and said, what if he got older? And what if all the horrible things that people said to him and, insults and this and that, what if that was used and he turned that into punishing the wicked and punishing
the bullies
and the tyrants and the oppressors. And then it kind of grew into a cautionary tale on an even larger socio-political, commentary front, so to speak, because then we're talking about any sort of like, the 1% dictators, what have you, not to go too far off. So we built this mythology all around that one character, and it just started growing, and we got more and more into our Tolkien type minds.
And he became like this, vigilante, like what Ethan was saying. And then that's kind of, from there, then it just like took off, and we build this world around this one kid who gets to come back and do some damage.
That's awesome. So you both said you have been creators before in past, in other mediums. Why was this a right fit for a comic book to kind of deviate into, whatever medium you were in before? I think you guys said like doing some film, some TV. Why was it comic books though for this? They're like, this would fit for a comic rather than the other mediums that you've been creating in.
Part of it, I think, also was when we would share the story, a few people were like, have you ever thought of this as a graphic novel? Have you ever thought, and I think for a while we were like, well, I don't know. And then finally we were like, oh shit. We're like, yeah, it's totally like, it totally fits that world. It's like,
I think we were hesitant at first because, we were doing film and TV. And so that's what our mindset was. That's what we were thinking of. And we were thinking of that world. And yeah, we had people, chirping at us like, oh, have you thought about doing this graphic novel? And we're like, I don't know. And it's because we didn't know where that would start. We didn't know how
to begin.
To begin. And so we're like, no. But then it kept on gnawing away and people would keep on saying it. And actually, oddly enough, we are connected to another comics writer, Charlie Stickney of White Ash. And
So Rylan was my first interview. Charlie was my second interview I ever did. And
Awesome.
I adore White Ash, and I've got
Yeah.
to have Charlie on again at some point. So
No,
when
it's
you said
great.
White
Yeah.
Ash, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
y'all just speaking to my
Yeah.
heart right now.
Yeah.
I mean, just another, he just sent out, he's got another one, another Kickstarter coming soon
Yeah.
for White Ash.
Every single time,
Yeah.
Charlie's like, oh, I got a White Ash, I got a Galarian Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So there's, look at that right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got it
Yeah.
right up there.
Yep. So
Yeah.
White Ash fans right there.
But so it was actually my brother who was like, well, because I know Charlie through him, and he's like, well, did you see what Charlie did with White Ash? I was like, I don't know. And then I think we finally decided, like, maybe I should reach out to Charlie and ask him and kind of just pick his brain and see how the process was. And so we talked to him and kind of lit all these little fires, and
we started a process of like looking and finding an artist and all that, and it really, like, I think that's when like all the fireworks went, like just like looking at all these amazing possibilities with it, and we were so lucky to find an amazing artist who has worked tremendously, and that's another thing, like we're so excited because someone who is bringing it to life and in beautiful colors, and just all of his work. Giuseppe Sabe Di Stefano, he's so good.
I think we got lucky finding him.
Yeah,
just like a fluke, random, like on Facebook. He's like, I never post, and he posted one thing and it was like, that's really cool art, that could be a good look. We just contacted him, and
it was meant to be.
Yeah.
It was meant to be. Yeah, it was like the timing of it was really great.
And I feel like I saw in your press release, he also had done some work at Scout as well, correct?
Yeah, and that's why it was perfect, because then we reached out to Charlie and said, hey, do you know this? And he's like, I'm going to reach out to the creator. And then he was like, yeah, that dude's awesome.
Yeah.
And we're like, great, we could just start going.
Because we loved his art. We were like, oh my
Yeah.
God, look at his use of color and like the light in it. And it was just so exciting.
Because he comes from he's in Rome and he does animation. So he's like really great with light. The way that he colors his own artwork,
like the storyboards for animation. Yeah.
Right. But his art in this has been great. It's dark and fun at the same time, which was the whole point, because we wanted, we pitch our book as like, it's like Labyrinth meets A Nightmare on Elm Street with like Tim Burton vibes sprinkled on top.
I mean, if you're not sold on that, gang, right? Labyrinth, are you kidding me? And then mix
right.
Like
Bowie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you Bowie. Like,
Yeah,
all right,
just Just carrying around an orb. That's all you got to do.
they know more. So you found your artist for your book via just Facebook? Is that kind of?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
It was really like I mean, we had reached out to a bunch of other people, and we were talking to a few other people, and obviously factoring in rates and factoring in how many people are going to get involved, and then this just post just popped up like bloop, and like, oh,
yeah,
really,
it was
really
like
cool.
on one of the comic platforms for artists. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Because for this book, we didn't want like the very photorealistic type art. We didn't want the superhero style. We wanted kind of like this rough, aged, hand painted type feel, and that was just how he draws.
Yeah.
And we're like, please work.
Yeah, and it's like a dark horror fantasy, but like if it went too dark, like then you miss some of the jokes and some of the fun of it, because that's part of the balance, right? So he just like had that perfect balance of all those ingredients.
And what could be more fun than plucking someone's eyes out and putting them in a jar?
Yeah, and I saw that page that you're referencing. I'm like, ooh, like, okay, like this is where we're going. All right.
Yeah, it's fun though.
It is. It's such a fun, in the preview pages that I read, the art is just so captivating, right? Like you're enthralled into it, and then you're writing for what you're bringing. Like it's like I don't even want to say coming of age, but like you said, it's kind of like trying to figure out like, dealing with bullies and dealing like what you said of like, and earlier in the show. And I'm just like, I'm here for this. And the art just pairs with it so well. So I'm excited to see this fully developed after this Kickstarter, and just like, I want it all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. We hope, we hope people feel like that too, because we do think it's such a great story, and it obviously has a lot of heart and a message, and and some of the creepy stuff and the fun stuff, but it's we are obviously creating it. We feel very strongly about it.
Right.
But we really do think that it'll like connect with a lot of people.
And we still keep the original heart of those cautionary tales. We make an effort to have, like each chapter that we're going to be writing is going to focus on one punishment, so to speak, right? That's the main focus, but there's going to be a few more throughout. But each one, has to be kind of tailored around this whole, the one, tyrant or the one evildoer that's focused on. So, there's going to be something fun, some chase, some, something a little bit gruesome, but a little bit funny at the same time in each chapter. I don't know exactly how many chapters we have planned, but 3 parts is what our goal is to finish the arc.
So is this first Kickstarter like kind of like the first chapter then?
Well, it's the first book. It's 58 pages. So that's this first one. And then we envision 3 parts. So there's 2 more to come.
Yeah, part 1 is only chapter 1, but we foresee parts 2 and 3 to have multiple chapters each.
Okay.
It's just, we did a lot of setup and a lot of different characters.
A lot of world building, because all these rules of the world and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm excited to see the kind of the world you created. And so, this is gonna, this is a Kickstarter. And so I'm sure being a Kickstarter and having kind of Charlie and Ryland in your ears talking about Kickstarter, who are like the gurus of Kickstarter. So like those are good people to have kind of in your corner. What are some tiers? I'm assuming you guys have some tiers for your Kickstarter. What are some tiers that you are super excited about that, like, if someone's watching this, like, hey, check out this tier, this would be really cool?
So, okay. So I think we have 4 covers in total.
Okay.
With a possibility of a 5th, but we're well, anyway, not sure.
We're gonna see how it goes.
We're gonna see how it goes. So I mean, I think for me the coolest thing would just be get all the covers. So we have this cover bundle, but the cover bundle kind of includes everything in it. We have a really awesome enamel pin that do I have? Can I grab it?
Yeah, I mean the cover bundle also, one of the covers is like a pop culture, like giving tribute to the here he's coming with the Freddy Krueger, like the first Nightmare on Elm Street poster.
We got a cool Shockheaded Peter enamel pin for you.
Oh, look at that. That's awesome.
We got these limited edition bookmarks, which are, so in the town where it's set, they have this parade, this clock making parade called the TikTok Cavalcade. And it's the 200th year in the book. So we have these numbered limited edition tickets, which are also bookmarks, which is also included in this cover bundle.
But going back to the cover, talk about the pop culture cover, the one that's really exciting.
Yes. So that to me is probably the coolest part of this cover bundle here. So thanks again to Ryland for introducing us to artists that he worked with. They both worked on was it The Jump, or I'm looking over there because I have issues over there.
So the Jump, I know The Jump was Fabio Alves.
Yeah,
so it's Fabio Alves. I'm not sure if Edson did colors on The Jump or not.
Okay.
But both of them, I think they both did Banjacks. That's what I think it was.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So yeah, I know Fabio did Banjacks and The Jump. Because you mentioned off air my exclusive with my wife. That was Fabio.
Yes.
So if you're telling me you have Fabio cover, I'm like, nah, we're good. Like Fabio's gonna crush it.
So Fabio and Edson, we pitched to them. We wanted to do a recreation of the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie poster with Shockheaded Peter.
Yeah,
and
Ruby, who's the teenager, and yeah, it turned out like,
oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's really awesome. So
Yeah.
we're super excited about that one. Another crazy tier, I guess, would be, which we think is fun, is someone can get a punishment of themselves that's doled out by Shockheaded Peter. So our artists would, we would, with our artists, choose the punishment that best fits you for your crimes. So someone could have like original artwork of themselves.
Yes.
Because we didn't mention that Shockheaded Peter has a code. And so in his code, your punishment will fit your crime.
Yes.
Okay.
So whatever your crime is.
So and I'm not saying names, but if someone wanted to like support a tier and have like Shockheaded Peter, do a punishment to say like Charlie or something, like a bearded friend could have that happen, right? Like,
we'll have to talk to the powers that be, but I think that could be a possibility.
That's awesome. So this is a one part. You say you have 3 parts. So you kind of have this world and this vision already set up, right? Like where you want to take it and where you want to wrap up the story.
Oh, it's like, if we take it all the way where we want to take it, I think we have like 9-10 books, but this first part, like this world and the coming of age and like just really getting deep into this world is definitely the 3 books. And then after that, we have plans. We definitely have plans. Like, yes, we have a whole arc that's very, well developed.
And yes, it's called Shockheaded Peter, but really you're with this girl, Ruby, experiencing this whole thing. And that's part of the fun as well as an audience member. We have lots of things planned for Ruby.
There's a lot of it's a lot of there's a lot of mythology, like, for sure.
And
there's
we're excited to really get into it all and the world building. And the town of Winding Springs is so unique and weird and odd. We just want people to experience it and go there. It's almost kind of like a weird dark Disneyland.
I love that idea. I'm just picturing a small world. It's a small world.
Oh,
so you
Small World is a nightmare place.
It is. If you've written on, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like this is. So you mentioned Shockheaded Peter, and then you mentioned Ruby in this. Without going into too much detail and stuff. Who kind of is this character of Ruby? Because you mentioned Ruby a lot, and where does she fit into this world that you're creating with this Shockheaded Peter, who's kind of like going out against those who have done wrong and things like that?
So as we mentioned, like from the actual original source material, Shockheaded Peter comes from there. We do have a couple other characters that we pay homage to that we include in the story, but Ruby is a fully new creation. And she's this 16-year-old teenager who has been like the butt of every joke, the most bullied, like just like totally downtrodden, because she was born with like a heart problem that she has to wear a wrist monitor without giving too much away. Her father's a clockmaker. And
we refer to her as the girl with the actual broken heart.
Yeah.
She's that kid that had some medical issue, but small town, people are nasty and horrible, and they find ways to pick on those people.
Right.
And it's awful. So we wanted Ruby to essentially be the eyes and ears of the reader. Like, you're kind of experiencing this whole thing through her in a manner of speaking. Not saying that we're always with her, but you know what I mean? Like she's like the main focal point.
Yeah, she's our heroine. Yeah. And and then Peter is our vigilante, who is like, the way we talk about him is like a fucked up fairy godmother.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
Well, he's like at one point it's like if Freddy Krueger and Willy Wonka had a baby, that would be Shockheaded Peter. And then like, yeah, he's like, in a sense, he is like Ruby's fucked up fairy godmother, where,
Yeah, we
the-
won't say too much, but like if you can imagine that journey like of someone needing some help and then this wild deranged fairy godmother shows up, that's kind of like where where we head.
you know what? The monkey's paw comes to mind, because it's like you'll wish for something that's not going to turn out the way that you think it is. Kind of like that.
Okay, I dig it. Man, like I'm stuck on Willy Wonka. I'm like, ooh, I'm like, so are you guys gonna put golden tickets into random Kickstarter packages and like get it?
Part of me was thinking these tickets that we made, if do some with like foil. I don't know. I have to look into see about the design, but that was an idea.
If you get like, you get to just explore the world of the town you've created.
Yeah.
Whatever real life town is close enough to it, you'll send them to it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny because like if we go back to the mythology that as you continue and learn about the town, but it was a town, it's called Winding Springs because it used to have these riverbeds where there was a lot of gold. And over time it's dried out. So the whole idea with the gold is definitely in there. But that's part of the background. And then it became a clock making place. So Ruby, even though she's this downtrodden girl, her family actually comes from that. They kind of established the town. So like she has this long lineage. That's all backstory, but yeah, it was funny when you mentioned the gold thing, because I'm like, that is in there and part of that background.
Cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, as we're, wrapping up our interview, is there anything about the book, the Kickstarter, that we haven't touched on that you're like, I would love to kind of hit on this real quick?
I think we hit on the major points. I really want people to experience the fun of this and the journey of this, and know that it is going to go down a very dark, deep, yet extremely fun rabbit hole. And I don't want to spoil too much. But we had a hell of a time writing this thing and seeing the images from our artist every week. And I just want other readers to experience that.
Yeah, well, sometimes when we get the images, I like, it feels like Christmas, like you're getting like every time images and pages were sent.
That's awesome. You're like, I want a golden ticket. Let's go, Grandpa.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. I love it. So, as obviously the link to the Kickstarter will be in the description of this video, as well as where can people find you and follow along with kind of what you're creating and working on?
I'm on social media. All my handles are at EBK from LA. On whatever, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's all the same handle.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm mostly also on like Instagram and Twitter. I go Jess Silvetti. So it's just like, Jess and then my last name, Silvetti. So nice. Yeah, we could share them and stuff.
And you'll probably see just a lot of images from this book most recently.
No problem with that at all, because as I've seen some of the images, like y'all want to see these, so it works.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing if I can add about what I'm excited for when we finally launch is you guys will see this amazing trailer that will be a sneak peek into the pages. It's really amazing, and I just hope at least people go and check it out and give it a chance, because I think that will really show you like the world and adventure that you will be taken on if you support and get a copy of Shockheaded Peter.
It's a fun time.
Nice. So I know you both said this is kind of your first foray into comics. Is there anything else that you are working on right now that you want to plug? Any other projects or things that you've done in the past or in the future that you're like, hey, go check this out?
I would just plug this again. This has been, I'm just very excited for this, and I think it's good. And I think once people get their hands on it, they'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. And I say the same because like, obviously, as we mentioned, we have the other parts of the books that we want to work on. So I think that's where our mind is already like, continuing the story and getting ready to
Part 2.
hopefully have a lot of success so we can go on to part 2 and keep growing and sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gang, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening on the podcast, we'll check out the Kickstarter. Look and see if it's something that you're digging, because I mean, come on, if you're listening to this and you're not like, I want to go check this out, like, what are you doing? Like, come on, like this sounds fantastic. So go check out, click the links in the description of this video. Go support Shockheaded Peter, because I know you are gonna dig it just as much as I can't wait to explore this world. So
Awesome.
And Ethan, Jazz, thank you so much for hopping on the show, talking about your comic with me. I always love having creators on and just hearing your passion and your heart behind your project that you created. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
absolutely. So again, gang, go support them. Go check out the Kickstarter. Click the links below, follow along with what they're doing, and go support them both. And with that being said, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.